I promised myself I would never tell anyone this story again. Some secrets are meant to stay with you forever. But the guilt, it's destroying me. Every time I look at my husband, the man who's done everything for me, I feel like I'm suffocating. I'm broken inside. And it's all because of one mistake, letting my teacher show me things I should have never seen. Things my husband never could. Things I've always craved. It is even more terrible now because I don't want to stop seeing those things. My name is Lucy, and before my husband, life has been very unkind to me. I look back now, and I fear for myself. I fear because if I lose my husband, I have lost the only good thing life has given to me. I was born to parents that never cared about me. Parents that did not teach me values, or anything actually. After high school, I was left alone to figure life out by myself. I had to grow up fast, doing whatever it took to survive. Things I'm not proud of, but things that kept me alive. Yeah, I may not be able to go into details now, but I did a lot of terrible things to survive. Things no young girl would be proud of doing. I wanted more than my parents had. I wanted more out of life, and I knew I would get it in any possible way. So, I continued going out at night and doing what I had to do to survive. I continued like this for over 6 years of my life. In those 6 years, I lost the little self I had. I lost everything, all in a bid to put food on my table, clothes on my back, and to sustain my existence. In those 6 years, I killed whatever dreams I may have had of going to college, or being anybody other than what I am, or doing anything other than what I did. But just when I thought my life would never change, Eric walked into it, and everything was about to get more complicated than I could have ever imagined. I can't remember how we met now. But you know how it is in fairy tales, where a lady meets a man and the man fights for the lady despite the lady's past? This was what happened to me. I think we met at a bar after a very hard night of getting what I would survive on. Eric approached me. I don't think he knew what I did, or maybe he chose not to judge me. Asked to sit at the vacant chair in front of me, and introduced himself. I was shocked because this was the first time that a man was seeing me for more than what I did at the time. I was even skeptical at first. What did this first man want? What hideous 50 Shades of Grey thing are you into? Of course, I did not ask him these questions. I did not say anything. I just watched him introduce himself and stretched his hand for a handshake. I don't think I shook his hands. I was banged up from the night, and I was not in the space for any form of physical touch. But did this fine, soft-spoken man stop talking? No. He even got me to laugh. And after talking to me, I don't want to call it pestering, for what would seem like an hour so thereabout, I gave him my cell number and left the restaurant. I did not think he would call me. Somewhere in my heart, I wanted him to call me. I wanted to watch his fine pink lips move again. But I knew enough to expect anything good. So I let the day slide. Until his call came in the next day, and the day after, and we had our first date. Mind you, I still had my survival cap on, and I was still doing what I had to do to survive. Eric became a very important part of my day, even before we started anything. I would hold on to my cell phone, waiting for his call, and beam with 1,000 smiles when it finally came in. He did most of the talking, and I just listened. I liked listening to him talk, the innocence in his smooth voice, the genuine way he would ask to know how I was. Eric saw me more than I saw myself, and that was the beauty of our friendship. He didn't even ask me what I did for a living. I just assumed he knew. After our first date, it was clear to me that Eric wanted more than just being my friend. And for me to want to date someone like him, I would have to give up my means of survival. It was going to be hard, but I was ready to do anything to keep Eric in my corner. I started looking for something better to do, something that did not scream of survival. But it was hard. I could have told Eric to help me find something to do, but I wanted to do this by myself. I must tell you now, I looked here and there for a job, but because I had very sparse experience, I could not get any. I did get a waitress position in an exotic nightclub, but that was my previous life all over again. Since nothing was coming, I decided to continue my means of survival until I was very sure of Eric's intentions. Eric and I became serious too fast. Yes, I was enjoying the attention and I loved the calls, but was I ready to give up the life I had for the life Eric wanted to give me? Looking back, I don't think I was. But Eric was a sign that anything was possible. Without getting a job, I decided to stop what I was doing. I wanted to build something with Eric, and to do that, I would have to leave what I had become normal to me. It was hard. I even often found myself relapsing. But the defining moment for me was the day Eric almost caught a guy in my room. I had been off the streets for a while, but Eric was not giving me what I wanted. True, I had begun to love him, but I missed getting pounded the way I was used to. Eric was too gentle. He was a genuine softie, and I mean in every way. He would take me for 3 mins and would sleep off afterwards. I was not used to that. So I invited one of my past clients to the house. We were in the middle of a severe session, the best I have had in a long time, when I heard the knock on. It was Eric. Apparently, he had heard us and was angry. After knocking for as long as he did, and I did not open, he left. I did not go after him. I waited till we finished and I was satisfied before I called Eric. Of course, he did not pick. We stayed apart for over 2 weeks, the longest 2 weeks of my life. I had ample time to assess my life and set myself straight. With or without Eric, I was done with this life. In those 2 weeks, I got a job and straightened out a little. Soon enough, Eric called. We made amends and everything went back to how they used to be. Only this time, I was to allow him to love me and I was going to love him too. But do people ever change? I don't think so. Our relationship grew so beautifully. Remembering what we had always makes me wonder why I'm doing this to my husband. We could not do without each other. 4 months into our relationship, Eric proposed. I remember that day like it was yesterday. We were on our way to dinner when Eric suddenly stopped in the middle of traffic. He came out of the car holding his chest. I was scared, like genuinely scared. Before I could call for help, I was already surrounded by people bearing flowers and holding cards. I didn't really catch up in time. These people held the card up in a single file and it read, "Will you marry me?" Eric stood up immediately, and it was magic. Although it did not last as long as I wanted because we were in the middle of traffic, it was the most beautiful thing anybody had ever done for me. We got married 2 months after his proposal. Our wedding was magical. Eric created a new reality for me, made me feel wanted and alive. I began to live the day we got married. Yes, our wedding night was not fireworks on the 4th of July, but it was beautiful all the same. Well, you know what they say about life in fairy tales? The fairy tale reality that Eric created for us began to crumble the moment I decided to go to college. That one decision gave me a messy new reality. Eric had always wanted me to get a college degree. Although I could have enrolled in an online school, he wanted me to get the whole college experience. Since we were still young, it was possible for me to do that. I applied for the nearest college in our city, and surprisingly, I got in. I was both happy and emotional. I remember how I felt the day I got the admission letter. Somehow I knew I was going to get in, but somehow I did not want to get in. I just wanted to continue my life as Eric's wife, probably start a YouTube channel to document basic things and all that. But Eric wanted me to get the degree. Maybe he felt it was a step in the right direction. And it really was. Well, just as my instincts told me, things would go downhill from there. Although I had a room on campus, I came to class from our house. I never really had any friends on campus. Even the lady I shared a room with was not my friend. I just wanted to get the degree and be done. I was not enjoying college at all. Not until Dr. Ben showed up. Dr. Ben taught philosophy. His class was the most interesting of all my classes. It was basically conversations about the world and all that. Did I ever pay attention in his class? The answer is no. Ben was a fine glass of white wine. He was every lady's crush, I can tell you that. A tall, well-tanned, smart, straight man with a rod print that poked in his pants. He was the kind of guy I used to get down with when I was still in my other ways. I wanted Ben the first day I met him. The very first day, I tell you. But I did not act on what I felt. I was married to Eric. I loved my husband so much. I was not ready to betray the trust and connection we have built for over a year. So, while other ladies were wowed by Ben's physique, I occupied myself with the thought of my husband's love. I completely ignored Ben. I would not talk in his class, give him the stink eye when he asks me questions, and just be totally off. I thought I was sending the stay away signal. Little did I know that all my acts to send him away only attracted him. Ben began I don't know the word to use now. He picked on me for no reason, asked me nasty and very unreasonable questions, and sometimes made me stand throughout his class. I told Eric about it, and he said it was part of the training. Since he was not making any inappropriate remarks about me, I did not have a case against him. So, Dr. Ben continued poking at me, until I got used to his pokings. I decided to stop pouting and sending the stay-away signal to see if he would change his attitude towards me. Just as I thought, he changed. After a week of being nice to Dr. Ben, he invited me to his office. I remember this vividly, because it was in his office that I decided I would have him, no matter the cost. We talked at length that day about our personal differences, likes and dislikes. He even tried to flirt with me. From enemies in class, Ben and I became rather cool friends. I would find myself texting him at odd hours and having him reply to me almost immediately. I don't know what Eric thought about it the first time he saw I was texting and now reading. He did not say anything, though. Eric trusted me. I mean, we have been through a lot together, and he has seen me at my lowest, not to trust me. If only he knew. My relationship with Dr. Ben grew faster than I could imagine. The rate even increased when he found out I was married. I would find out later that he had a thing for married women, and that I was not the only lady he had lured into his trap. But did he lure me? I don't think so. I would stay with him in his office till late at night. Eric still did not have a problem with it. He wanted me to enjoy the experience, and if that meant helping a professor do a little work or staying on campus for some nights, he was down for it. What he did not know was that, slowly, I was falling for Dr. Ben. Before, what I felt for Ben was a mere fantasy. Now, these fantasies were taking shape and becoming very vivid. Eric soon became uncomfortable with my relationship with Ben. I tried telling him it was platonic, but he did not want to believe it. I remembered the first fight we had over this. It was intense. I wasn't going to allow him to dictate my relationships. The way I argued with my husband, you would think I was right and Eric was just being insecure. But I knew Eric was only protecting our marriage. If he had not confronted or warned me, I would probably not regret what happened. But he did. He even went as far as confronting Dr. Ben. The sly Ben got a restraining order against Eric almost immediately. Ben knew the game and was willing to play it till he got what he wanted. I was the prize, and he was determined to get me at all cost. Eric stopped fighting suddenly. It was like he was fighting a lost battle. We even stopped talking for almost a month. Eric and I became strangers in the house. Silence, cold shoulders, no intimacy. Not like I looked forward to it even. We were living as housemates, and in that month of silence and vulnerability, Ben slithered in. The first time Ben took me was in his office. I can remember that day clearly. It was raining that day, and Ben would not allow me leave his office until the rain stopped. It was as if the universe had apportioned that day for us. The silence was bursting with serious tension. Ben and I never run out of things to say, but that day, we were quiet, staring at each other, and waiting for the other to make the first move. No moves were made. The rain raged on, and with the rain came cold. Although we were warm inside, I think that was the only way Ben could come join me on the couch. "You must be cold," he said. I don't think he waited to hear my reply before joining me on the couch. The silence grew more intense. Ben was now very close to me, the closest that we have been since we became friends. I could smell his cologne mixed with sweet and a little bit of aftershave. I remember swallowing hard. This was the compromising situation Eric talked about. I could see it now, but there was nowhere to go. Plus, I wanted Ben, now more than ever. He leaned over, pulled me close, and laid me to his chest. "This will help with the cold. I have adjusted the thermostat. Why do I still remember all he said? Because all of my senses were heightened. I was aware, very well aware, of everything that was happening and what he wanted to do. I was now on Ben's very broad and full chest. Eric does not have this kind of chest. Eric was all skin and bones. I did not know when I started drawing circles with my index finger on his chest. The tension was at an all-time high. I swallowed again. Ben, seeing as he could not handle the tension any longer, raised my head and kissed me. Although I wanted the kiss, I was shocked at how good he kissed me. Ben did not have his tongue in my mouth. He did not spit too much. It was a passionate yet mildly rough kiss. I should know, as I have grown accustomed to it, even now. It did not stop there. As he kissed me, he slipped his hands into my blouse, and his thumb and index fingers settled on my nipples. He twisted it anti-clockwise as he kissed me, sending ripples of pleasure down my spine. But that was just the beginning. Ben took off my blouse, the blouse Eric got for me on our vacation in Italy. I was wearing a thong, easy to take off. He paused to take the whole of me in, and in that instant, my mind went to Eric, the man that loved me when I was in the streets. The man showed me that I could do better, that taught me how to do better. Was I going to do this to him? Well, before I could answer the question, I felt a pleasure I had not felt in years. Ben was in between my legs. His tongue was working wonders in my garden. I was high on pleasure. I did not know when I held his head down, stopping him from coming up. I went from thinking about my husband to pushing another man's tongue into my rose garden like my life depended on it. Just when I thought this was the climax of the pleasure, Ben's rod parted my Red Sea, and I marveled with a loud moan. I knew, right then and there, that I would never get enough of this miracle. I could not get enough of Ben. Although I still loved my husband, I could not leave Ben alone. This man took me and made me his. He satisfied me, showed me a side of my body I had locked away because of Eric's inadequacies on the bed. I was not in love with Ben, I was just addicted to his rod. We continued like this, until... There is always karma, and it happens at the least expected time. I got pregnant. I knew it was for Ben, but I loved Eric too much to leave him. Ben has threatened to tell Eric about us. He says I can't give another man his baby. I'm 5 months gone now, and Eric is the happiest man alive. How can I tell him that the child may not be his? If you want to see more infidelity stories, then click on the video you see now on your screen.